This is the International Soccer Preview, and we are Soccer Files Canada. Welcome to Series 17. We're looking at the squads of the 2023 Gold Cup. This is the short version for Haiti's players. Here we go. It's June, and welcome back to part 2 of the Haitian Players Media Cast. And welcome in the first place if you're just joining us for the short version or the second half of the media cast. So I'll just quickly summarize what we did in the first half for those who are joining. And that is we compiled a list of candidates for Haiti based mostly on recent performance, but also a little bit of their history with the team. And we gave biographical information on these players and their history in Gold Cups and a little bit about their club. And then we categorized them as to how likely they were to reach the cup. So we had definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seems to be off the squad. And now we go through that list again, and we will tell you who made the preliminary squad and who made the final squad. In fact, for Haiti, there's a division in between there because they put out a 36-man preliminary squad and then reduced it to 28. So we know the names of those 28, and finally reduced it to 23. So on we go. And I said in the first half of the podcast that several of the big names had kind of mysteriously disappeared in the springtime for Haiti. And I looked into that and couldn't find any information on it. Some of those players are actually doing well at the club level, but there was no word on why they're not playing for Haiti since around April or June 2022. So actually one or two of the kind of smaller names did come back. We'll point those out as we go along. But in general, some of the bigger names that we've enjoyed over the last couple of World Cups didn't make the squad. So here we go, and let's look at the list. And so the manager, a bit of a change with the manager. I guess we kind of made a mistake. Well, not really, because he was still listed as the manager when we checked. But in early April, in early May, Jean-Jacques Pierre, his contract was not renewed as manager. And now the person listed as the manager is Gabriel Calderon Pellegrino. And he is the one listed as the manager to take them through this cup. So I did a bit of research on him and actually couldn't find much. He is Spanish, and he was a technical advisor to Haiti, said the article that I read. And all it said was numerous technical experiences in Spain, with Real Betis, Malaga, Leganes, and Getafe, and in the United Arab Emirates, and professionally, kind of administratively, I take this to mean with FIFA, La Liga, and Real Madrid University. So that's all we have to go on for Gabriel Calderon Pellegrino, but he is the manager taking them through the cup. Jean-Jacques Pierre out of the picture, it seems. Okay, well, let us go to goalkeepers. And Johnny Placide was one of those players who disappeared from the team, last playing for them in March 2022, but doesn't really fit the category I'm talking about because he wasn't really playing for the team for the 2021 Gold Cup. He reportedly decided to focus on club play. And so Johnny Placide not here for this cup either. However, he did make that cut from 36 to 28, and we'll put him in the well, seems to be off the squad category, but that dark blue represents that he made the first cut. Otherwise, green represents they made the final squad if you're looking at the graphic on YouTube, and light blue represents them making the 36-man preliminary squad. Okay, let's look at goalkeepers. We had two definite candidates. One was Josue Duverger, and he did make the final squad. And the other was Alexander Pierre, and he also made the final squad. We had a likely candidate in Garrison Innocent, and he also made the squad. So the three goalkeepers who seemed the most likely were indeed on the squad. As we mentioned, Johnny Placide making the 28-man squad, but not the final squad. And the other two players we mentioned, Alan Jerome and Brian Sylvester, we had as seemingly off the squad, and that seems to be the case as they were selected for the preliminary squad. All right, moving on to defenders, we had central defender Ricardo Ade as a definite candidate, and he did make the final squad. And all the other players we had, and there was quite a list of them, seemed to be off the squad. So that's incredible. Just one player coded as a central defender making the squad. Correct that, actually, a couple of these guys did make the squad, but it seems very thin in central defense. So seemingly off the squad was Francois Dulis, one of those players who last appeared in June 2022 and then disappeared, but he kind of reappears here by being selected not only for the preliminary squad, but making the first cut down to 28, but didn't make the final cut. Francois Dulis. I'll mention the ones that actually did make the squad on our list. So one of them is Stephen Seons, and the other one is Garvin Metusala. Both of those we had as seemingly off the squad. Stephen Seons' last game was in June 2022, and Garvin Matusala last game was in March of 2022, so they hadn't played the team for a year. But come to think of it, you know, they only had 2 games in March 2023, so it's not as desperate as all that. So I guess really what we're saying here is that these players didn't appear for the March 2023 games. Okay, well, the other candidates there who are seemingly off the squad, James Jeffard. James Jeffard did not even make the preliminary squad. Andrew Jean-Baptiste did make the preliminary squad, but did not make the final squad. And Michak Jerome, a veteran of 78 caps, did not make even the preliminary squad there and has disappeared. John Lee Vandermeer, the last candidate there, also didn't make the preliminary squad. So, okay, they have 3 central defenders, so they may have to use some of the left or right backs that we're going to talk about to fill in. So moving on to left backs, we had a definite candidate in Alex Christiansen, and he did make the final squad. And a possible candidate in Martin Espérions, and he turned out to be possible. He was named to the preliminary squad, but not the final squad there. Martin Espérions. And we had finally a player who seemed to be off the squad, Ashkanov Apollon, and he was not named to the preliminary squad, so does seem to be out of the picture. Moving over to right backs, these are some of the ones that may fill in as central defenders, because there are 3 candidates here, and Carlins Arcus and Jep Simonson. Both of them we had as definite candidates, and both of them made the squad, as did the possible candidate Jimmy Alexis, also going to be at the 2023 Gold Cup. We had Stephen Lambisi seemingly off the squad, and more evidence that he is in that he wasn't selected even for the preliminary squad. All right, that brings us to midfielders, and we had a definite candidate in Brian Alceus, and Brian Alceus is selected for the squad. We had a couple who are seemingly off the squad, and I am glad to see them back. Stephen Saba. It's not really a surprise that they're back. It's more of a surprise that they hadn't played in the March 2023 games. And the other one, Wild Donald Gurrier, both of them selected for the final squad. So they are coming back into the picture. That is good. Defensive midfielders. So all three of those we coded as versatile midfielders because they tend to move around the midfield. And now we look at defensive midfielders, and we had two definite candidates here in Carl Sainte and Leviton Pierre. And both of those made the final squad. But we had a player, I don't think actually we listed him in the initial thing, but Sony Mustavar was seemingly off the squad and was not selected for the preliminary squad. Okay, central midfielders, we had just a likely candidate, no definite candidate, and it was Danley Jean-Jacques, and Danley Jean-Jacques has made the squad. And then we had many candidates who were seemingly off the squad. And among those five candidates, only one of them made the preliminary squad. That was Biku Bisenti. On the preliminary squad, but didn't make the final cut. And then the other four, not even named to the preliminary squad. And they were Dotherson Clairvaux, Zachary Heriveau, Kevin Lafrance, and I put Sony Mustavar here too, but he's the same, not named to the preliminary squad. Okay, over to left midfielders, and we had two definite candidates. One was Derek Etienne, and he did make the final squad. And then in one of the few surprises here, we had Danny Jean as a definite candidate, but in fact he was only named to the preliminary squad there, and that's all for him. Okay, over on the right midfield, I didn't know how to finish my thought there, so I just bluffed my way through it. Okay, over to the right midfielder, a bit of a surprise here too. We had Fred Le Christophe as a likely candidate, but he only made the 36-man preliminary squad and will not be at the finals. For left wingers, we had none. And for right wingers, we had only one who was seemingly off the squad, Cristiano Francois. And he does seem to be off the squad as he was not selected even for the preliminary squad. However, we do have our only new candidate here, the only one we hadn't listed, and that is Fafa Picot. Fafa Picot was born in the USA, and he played a couple of games for the USA in 2016 to 18, 2 caps for them. He's 23 years old, perhaps 22 years old, and he was with Houston Dynamo in the United States. I'm afraid I didn't update his information there. But yes, he was a consideration for the USA up to 2019 Gold Cup, and now it looks like he has thrown his lot in with Haiti. And so he was selected to the final squad, Fafa Picot. Okay, and on to the forward line. We look at attacking midfielders first, but they only had one, and that was Brian Chevroux. and he was at the seemingly off the squad level, and true enough, he didn't make the preliminary squad. So with no attacking midfielders and no players coded as secondary strikers, we are down to the list of forwards, but there are a lot of players in this position. So we had a definite candidate in Carnegie Antoine, and he did make the final squad. And we had three likely candidates in Nazon Duckins, and we did go over in the first part of the podcast why we placed players at the level we did. So Duckins Nazon is a good example to talk about here. Of course, he would be a definite candidate in terms of his record and his ability. 27 caps, 27 goals in 51 caps. But he was absent from the team for 20 months before March 2023. So we just had a little bit of doubt as to whether he would be there. So that's an example of what we talked about in part one. Anyway, Duckins Nazon did make the squad, and I'm happy about that. As did the other two likely candidates, Franzi Piero and Mondi Prunier. Both of them making the final squad, and that's a very exciting attacking line for Haiti. Sadly, Ronaldo Damus did not make the squad, and that is sad because he did really well with San Diego Loyal in the USA, and I don't know whether he had this nickname before, but he got the nickname Haitian Sensation. And I did enjoy him in the 2021 Gold Cup, and I'm sad he's not here. However, he hadn't played for Haiti since the 2021 Gold Cup. I even did some research on him specifically and couldn't find a reason for that. So Ronaldo Damus not making the squad or even the preliminary squad. And actually the only one of the four that did was Lucius Don Dietzen. He made the preliminary squad. But the other three, Ronaldo Damus, Roberto Luima, and Shanider Borgelin, none of those even making the preliminary squad. And I'm sorry, we do have one other new candidate. I was neglect there. And that is Jairo John is his name, and he is a left winger. So I'll jump back to left wing here, and which is good because they didn't have any other candidates as left winger. So I'll give a little information since he wasn't in the first part of the podcast. Jairo John has no caps for Haiti and is 25 years old and plays for Real Santa Cruz in Bolivia. And he played for Always Ready, one of the great soccer team names, Always Ready in Bolivia before that. But he was born in Haiti, and I think he played in the Dominican Republic before that. Okay, and then we actually had 4 names added to the squad, but we'll get to those in the summary section that will begin now, actually. So let us take a look at notable non-selections. Well, maybe this was partly our mistake because it did happen in early May before we did the first podcast, but Jean-Jacques Pierre, no longer the manager of Haiti, so we'll consider him a notable non-selection, as it were. And Johnny Placide, we said, made it to the 28-man preliminary squad. But, given that he was named to that squad, because I've talked to a few Haitians and he seems to be the favorite, one of the favorite Haitian players. So I'm sure they're anxious for him to come back. And if they saw him on the preliminary squad and also making the cut to 28, they would have been excited, as I was, that he was going to play in this tournament. But he is not and hasn't played since March 2022. Martin Spirions, I thought we said no, okay, he made the preliminary squad. That's not really a surprise. I'll move on. Danny Jean is a surprise because we had him as a definite candidate, and he only made the preliminary squad. And finally, Fred LeChristophe, we had as a likely candidate, and he only made the preliminary squad. So not too many surprises in terms of who was left out. The biggest surprises are for Haiti, some of the names that haven't shown up since spring 2022, which we covered in the first part of the media cast. Okay, well, surprise inclusions. I guess if we say Jean-Jacques Pierre being a notable absence, we'd have to say the new manager, Gabriel Calderon Pellegrino, as a bit of a surprise. But again, that happened in early May. Steven Seance, the central defender, we considered him seemingly off the team, having last appeared in June 2022. And the same is true for central defender Garvin Metusala. And in fact, that's true of all of the candidates who are kind of surprise inclusions there. We had them as seemingly off the squad because they hadn't shown up for a year or more, and they did come back. So that's good for Haiti. Stephen Saba is one of those, and Wild Donald Gourier is the other. So those four names, a bit of a surprise. And we look at a couple of new candidates. So we mentioned right winger Fafa Picault, and we mentioned left winger Jairo John. Both of those new. They were not on our radar. Actually, Fafa Picault was on our USA radar and then suddenly popped up here for Haiti. Okay, and then a couple of names that, and really they're just names that were not on our radar, not in the soccer files, but now they will be. Duke Lacroix and Shane de Bourgalain. Both of those made the cut from 36 to 28, but then didn't make the final cut. And then a couple of new names on the preliminary squad. Piero France, which is odd. He's going to be mixed up with this forward called Franci Piero. Very similar names, but they are different players. And the last one is Fernando Ciceron, brand new to the squad. Neither of them have any caps or have even stepped on the field for Haiti. All right, and then the last thing we do is an update on injury, but you'll see that it's beautifully blank for Haiti. So hopefully that really does mean they don't have any injuries, because Haiti tends to be a bit of an unlucky team. Or it could mean that the information is not good and none were reported. I hope it's the former, but no injury reports for Haiti. All right, that brings us to the end of part 2 and the end of the Player Podcast for Haiti. So I hope this increases your enjoyment, a deeper understanding of the players, makes you enjoy the tournament more, and let's finish with that hope. All the best. Bye-bye.